live right now?
No, it's not live. I'm just getting video of Open Streets.
Okay. Are you going to be doing some interviews? Like,
no, you want to be on? I don't have any guests, Anton. You want to?
Sure,
I can mic you up.
I'll be on your podcast.
You want to be on the podcast?
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I don't know what I have to talk about, but like...
I never know what I have to talk about, and I've done 100 and some episodes.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Here we are on the Wedge Live podcast at Open Streets, Minneapolis on Lyndale Avenue. I'm here. Anton, are you my oldest friend in Minneapolis?
I mean, I'm old and I'm a friend. I don't know the order that you met other people, but I would say, somewhere along those lines probably.
You're the one who stuck it out the longest. Other people move away. You moved away at one time. You went to Northeast Minneapolis.
Yeah, I went on like a South Minneapolis sabbatical, I guess I would call it, like where I had to go to Northeast to kind of regroup, like reacclimate myself with life.
You bought a home.
I bought a house there because I couldn't afford anything in South Minneapolis. So
I'll introduce you properly. Anton Schieffer, oldest friend in Minneapolis, for the sake of this podcast at least.
Right.
We're on Lyndale Avenue.
Open Streets.
Open Streets.
It's a glorious day. It's a little chilly, but I think it's the ideal temperature now to be on this adventure.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, I mean, I read a piece in the Star Tribune that said that no one is talking about rent stabilization. I'm not sure if the Star Tribune is aware that like a lot of people are talking about rent stabilization.
It's one of the main issues when I go to a candidate forum that gets asked about and talked about. People are talking about it.
Right.
I've had issues with the way all the candidates are talking about it, pretty much, except for Maureen Chowdhury, maybe Katie Cashman, I don't know. Maybe I'm a no good, dirty moderate, I think.
Yeah.
On the issue, because I actually want to see rent stabilization, but I don't want to see the St. Paul style version of it, and I don't want to see council members pretending they support some version of it but are actually just voting no.
Right, yep.
It's either people who want the most extreme version or they want nothing at all.
Or nothing, right.
I'm getting frustrated.
I feel that frustration, and I feel like I want to reiterate that I think the voters approved something in 2021 that said that we're going to take a look at this, and it's been a couple years now, and we haven't really had any tangible progress.
We had delay.
I think what's frustrating for me, so like I just bought a home in South Uptown, and I have a rent stabilization plan. Yeah, that's what you get when you buy a property, and it's great because my payment is going to stay the same as long as I want it to. Unfortunately, with renters, that won't necessarily be the case. They're at the whim of the market, and once you buy a house with a mortgage, you basically remove yourself from the market. You're insulated from that, and so I think it's an advantage that people who can afford to own a home can have that we're not extending to renters, and we could.
I'm worried this is turning into an episode on rent stabilization, but that's okay. Let's go. I always think about the minimum wage. Like, there is a level at which you can set the minimum wage that like destroys businesses because no one can afford to pay that wage. Just think of the highest wage you can think of, and that's probably too high. Well, maybe we have some people who say no to any minimum wage, but generally it's accepted their minimum wage should be set at a level, some level.
Were you getting honked at there, or?
I don't know.
People just like honking their horns. That's the thing about streets, is that They're filled with cars, and cars love honking horns.
Did we run a red
pastime.
light? What did we do wrong?
I don't know.
But anyway,
Cars make people mad, John. Do you know that? Cars make people mad.
People agree that there is some level, most people, that we should have a minimum wage. I think we should have at least some of that agreement on rent stabilization, some kind of, think of it as consumer protection.
Yeah, right.
Like you can't jack up the rent
Right.
year over year above this. Let's agree on that concept.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I'd like to get there.
I think we can agree about that. I mean, like, I don't think that any rational person would say, like, no, I think rent should be able to be raised an infinite amount. And I think rent stabilization is the obvious way to get that done. Now, there are people who maybe want to believe in, like, the market having the ability to solve this, and I don't think that that's true.
I don't know. There's a lot of all or nothing thinking out there.
Right.
I get frustrated. And so, how polarized we are, I think it helps people on the conservative side of Minneapolis politics, which is all relative, I'll say as a caveat before anyone gets mad at me for calling someone a
People are going to be
conservative.
mad at you no matter what, John.
But like it gives them an out. They're like, well, they want the most extreme version, therefore I don't want anything.
Right.
And you wouldn't say that about the minimum wage. You'd come back and say, well, isn't 15 more appropriate than 20?
Right. We can have a discussion about what the actual, amount is, and we can have that, in public rather than just kind of these these discussions that sort of happen on the fringes more or less, where I think the rest of us, there should be some kind of public discussion about it, and it shouldn't just be an all or nothing on the left, or an all or nothing, or continue with the status quo, which is I guess the right side of things.
I think a lot back to the Lisa Bender days, Anton. You and I go back to when Lisa Bender
We do
was
go back
first
that
elected.
far. That's right.
Back when she was new. And I think about things like inclusionary zoning. I remember how that got done, and we had some developers showing up to City Hall to say, no, it will kill our business. We won't build anything.
Yeah, that was supposed to be the end of the city. You
Yeah.
know, once inclusionary zoning happened, it was supposed to be, developers were all going to leave.
And the city hired a consultant to like do the math and say, here are versions of the policy and here are the various numbers you could do. And eventually we got to something. It wasn't the most aggressive thing, but it worked. And even Jacob Fry is like touting it as a success and playing up the idea that if we ever implement rent stabilization in Minneapolis, it would automatically kill a successful policy like inclusionary zoning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's usually where these discussions kind of end up, is that this thing that you're proposing is going to destroy the city as we know it, is going to lead to all these like terrible outcomes, when really like the status quo can be a bad outcome right now. You know, being able to raise rents by 25-50%, like I think that's a pretty bad outcome, and I think we should have policy in place to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, just give me the bottom. Give me the absolute bottom level policy you're willing to accept instead of saying no. Is 20% too much? I just want to see what your limit is.
Yeah, I mean, let's put something in place, and then we can, I mean, something like that that's reasonable, that will have some impact, but we can decide whether we want to tweak or change that at some point when we get the policy on the books, rather than thinking about this kind of a all or nothing, way, one way or the other.
I just feel like the conversation is so stupid. How are you feeling about the election year?
I mean,
are you paying a lot of it? We just ran into Shane, another longtime friend. Not as good a friend as Anton, more of an acquaintance, I would say.
Ouch. I mean, I hope Shane's, not offended if he's watching, but
he won't be.
Okay,
But
good.
Shane had a Kate Mortensen sticker on. I'm like, what's going on? Hey,
Hey,
David Brower.
he might want to be on the podcast later.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, that would have been a better. You're making me regret I don't have a better guest, Anton.
I'm a bad guest choice. I mean,
So we were talking about. He had a Kate Mortensen sticker on. I'm like, what's going on, Shane? What's with the Kate Mortensen sticker? And he thought Kate Mortensen was Katie Cashman, who's running in Ward 7, not Kate Mortensen, who's running in Ward 13.
oh man. Okay.
Mortensen? Really?
I'll see you. What?
What's wrong with her? Is she bad?
She's on a jihad against
I mean-
the Bryan Avenue bike lane.
Yeah.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Wait, who's the other one?
Linnea. You're probably thinking of 7, right?
Yeah, who's that kid?
Kate Cashman.
Kate Kasper, yeah. Oh man, that's embarrassing.
It's okay. I don't think anyone saw you. He's gonna be mad at you for.
And he ripped off the
Exposing him.
sticker in disgust at himself for not knowing the difference. But
Yeah.
he's tuned out, Anton. Are you
Yeah.
tuned in?
I mean, I feel like I'm maybe a little more plugged in. Well, I mean, I know the difference between a Cashman and a Mortensen, but I can't really offer anything in terms of predictions, which I think is probably what everyone wants at this point. I mean, it's
Do people want
October.
predictions?
I mean, I think people like want some assurance that everything is going to go well in the future.
It's impossible to say. My biggest nightmare is nobody turns out. Mayor's not on the ballot.
Yeah, I think it will be low turnout. I mean, that's
There's no
That's
like
almost a given.
flashy ballot measure for people to turn out for. It's just city council, and the vast majority of people don't know who their city council member is unless they're on Nextdoor all the time, getting worked into a froth
yes.
over like defund the police still.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a continued theme that we'll probably see out of the Star Tribune and Jacob Fry over the next month until the election. Is we already saw a story about the 3rd precinct building. So I think the intent is to kind of get the idea into voters' heads that the city council has some kind of control over the police department.
So did you give I'm not asking for a prediction, Anton. How do you feel? You feel good? Will we have a good outcome? I guess that is a prediction.
I think we have the potential for a good outcome. I mean, I think because it's a non-mayoral race. I think there's probably, there's only a couple wards that are kind of in the balance anyway. I think the bigger thing is going to be the race in 2025 when the mayor is back on the ballot.
You think he's going to run again?
I do think I think he'll run again. Yeah.
As in, like, what else has he got going on? Of course he'll run again.
I think it looks good to, like, continue. I mean, I think he has his aspirations set higher, but
Well, it's time to move on, Jacob Fry, if you have your aspirations set higher. So here's my thinking. Something bad is going to happen again. And he's got to get out of town before then, do the Chief Arredondo thing,
Right,
where he
where he's
leaves
just
a
like,
month before
yeah.
another horrific police shooting.
right?
Like, get out while the getting's good.
I mean, that could be, but I think he wants to see it through, and
That's an honor. You have an honorable impression of Mayor Fry. Then you want him. He's going to see it through.
I mean, I should say, like, I think that I should clarify that seeing it through means I think that is best for his political career, and I think he thinks that as well.
What do you anticipate him running for next?
I mean, I think the CD5, I think he would like to be our representative. I could see him running against Ilhan. He's got the same base that throws their money behind whoever the challenger du jour is, and I think he will be that next person.
Yeah, you're in Ward 8, Anton, right?
No, I'm in Ward 10.
Have any opinions on how that's going? Ward 10? We shouldn't bother talking about Ward 10. We got a series of joke candidates.
Yeah, a lot of joke candidates, but I think the competitive races are probably 8 and 12 are pretty much the two that are probably most going to be the most impactful this year.
8 and 12.
Yeah.
Then we have 5. You think Jeremiah Ellison is fine with the
I mean, I
against
think
Victor Martinez,
I think
Trumper?
he still needs to get out the vote. I think people should understand, who Victor Martinez is, and
After 2 times running, I think I'm getting the impression people do understand.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's a scary thing, and that's why you need turnout in this, historically low turnout election.
Also, people act like abortion and gay rights, LGBTQ issues are like, well, city council, how is that relevant? It's absolutely relevant, those issues, to city council race.
Yeah,
People want to downplay it as if it doesn't matter that he's a Trumper. Of course it matters.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It does matter, and you know what his outlook will be,
How about 7? Are you a Lisa Goodman fan? Have you enjoyed Lisa Goodman's 26 years of service to the city?
She's been at the city council longer than I have lived in the city. So I can't imagine imagine a city without Lisa Goodman.
Longer than like some council members have been alive.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, people who can vote this time may also not know a life without Lisa Goodman as being the Ward 7 representative.
7, Katie Cashman over Scott Graham is awful.
Yeah, I've read a lot of things about him and his being a landlord and other stuff, and I think Katie Cashman's a great candidate, and so I think
not just that Scott Graham is awful. Katie Cashman
yeah,
is a great
I mean
candidate.
there needs to be it's not enough to vote against someone. You really need to be in support of the other candidate.
Ward 8. There are moments when I'm like, way to go, Andrea Jenkins. I kind of like what you're saying there. I like that she doesn't really pander.
Yeah, that's true.
She endears herself to me by not pandering. There was a question about neighborhood association funding at the last forum we went to, and she was basically just like explaining the history of it, when the real answer to the question is like, people in neighborhood associations are the best, most wonderful people in the world. This is the real candidate answer. They
Right.
save this city every day.
They save democracy. They
deserve a blank check. No
Right.
blank, no novelty check is big enough.
yeah, they shovel their sidewalks all the time.
Yeah.
Right when the snow hits them, and yeah.
And she didn't do that. And I have appreciated her answers in the past on equity, about funding for neighborhood associations. I think she believes that. I think she believes I don't want to speak for Andrea Jenkins, but I got the impression in 2017 that she kind of believed neighborhood associations were the place where you go to hear from older white people, and that's not good enough.
Right. And that's, I think, that's one of the things that I'm happy about the 2040 engagement plan, like kind of went beyond just those neighborhood organizations. And I think that's kind of a model that we need to continue to pursue, is that like, hey, those aren't those might represent the most engaged neighbors, but those aren't necessarily all the people that live in the neighborhood,
But counterpoint, Andrea Jenkins is not good at being council president.
Yeah. I think most people who have seen council meetings would agree with that.
In league with the mayor, too much.
Yep. I mean, obviously on Team Jacob. Yeah. So if you're not on Team Jacob, then I think you're voting for Soren at that point.
And Ward 12, another clear one. Luther Ranheim wants to defund our bike infrastructure.
Yes, he can get all 3 cents out of our budget that goes to bike infrastructure and give it to. I don't know. What does he want to take that money from bike infrastructure?
I don't even know. It's not like he has an ambitious set of priorities.
I guess we give it to police settlements maybe.
Well, that's the other thing he said he was going to tackle. His big pots of money he was going to do was like end the police settlements by I guess making sure police aren't abusive and terrible anymore.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like a real concrete plan with a real concrete path to that.
And number 2 was defund bike lanes.
Okay.
Which isn't going to get him anywhere. And Oreen is a good candidate. I like her a lot. We don't have to talk about this anymore, Anton. We've droned on.
Okay.
With our bad political analysis.
Right. I mean, but we have covered, I think, most of the wards, right?
Those were the battlegrounds.
Okay, the battleground wards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of wards that, because this is a kind of an off year, that there weren't even really challengers, or the challengers are so weak that I wouldn't even consider them challengers, you know? I mean,
I don't think people want to be on the city council. Like no, really, like Ward 7, the quality of the candidate Lisa Goodman has lined up to replace her, and I'm not suggesting she like found Scott Graham, but like she endorsed him. Like, you can't do better than that.
you're saying they're not sending their best,
They are not sending their best. I'm sure some are good people,
right?
but they're not sending their best.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and I think, some of that stuff, though, you just don't know what the quality of a council person is until they are in office sometimes.
Well, I want to hear what you think makes a good candidate for local office, but I think it's somebody who isn't in it to like have the title. That's a very obvious thing to say, but a lot of people run because they're like, people like me, I like to be liked, and elect me for my self-esteem because I need this job title.
Sure.
I deserve this power. I'm good. I'm excellent, and it's about them. I like candidates to have a set of issues they're devoted to.
I think like having some kind of, like ideas about the changes you want to see in a city, I think that's pretty important. Understanding what the job is also important. I mean, I think, in 2021, like a lot of people running for council maybe like had the impression, and I think voters have this impression too, that that they're going to be able to do something about the police, for example, and that's clearly outside the purview of the city council. But it doesn't stop people from running on that.
I've been thinking, so
People of Open Streets,
So loud.
I hope you are enjoying this show on the dance floor right here. We have some incredible talent, amazing dance moves going on. Feel free to join in the dance party.
I've been thinking this since like mid 2021. It doesn't matter who gets elected. You could elect 3 Michael Rainvilles in a trench coat stacked on top of each other. And like the police staffing issue, the number, that staffing chart is kind of set in stone for the next, I don't know, 3 council terms, no matter who is elected.
I don't think that there's anything that we're gonna do to increase the recruiting class or anything like that. I mean,
and so when I go to candidate forums, like in 10, there's a couple of crime candidates acting like, well, yeah, we'll like not spend money on Bryant Avenue, we'll dump it on the police, and then they don't specify what that's gonna change. The implication is it's gonna bump staffing up. That's completely divorced from reality.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It makes me feel like either they're stupid or they think voters are stupid.
and I think it's probably a little bit of both, where I think they might think that that's how the problem is gonna get solved, but they obviously have not looked at what is actually the issue. And the issue is not related to funding necessarily, but it's related to being able to hire enough people to fill out their budget as it is. I mean, there are a lot of unspent dollars in the MPD pool, and throwing more money at the problem is not a solution for anything.
What are you working on, Anton? What are you excited about? What are you doing with your life?
Bought a house not too long ago in
South Uptown.
Yep, and it's great. I love it. I love the new. We went on a bike ride together on the new Bryant Avenue bike lanes.
We did.
Maybe we shouldn't say that because they were not completed. I'm not sure if it was, allowed to ride on them, but they were very nice. I'm very excited about that change in my neighborhood. I wish there was an even better way to bike downtown in some way that's protected from cars. I think, with Bryant north of where those lanes are, north of Lake, basically, it's, the shared, the paint as infrastructure, which is not infrastructure at all. But it does not feel like an all ages and abilities lane. Would I send an 8-year-old on that? No.
I think what people don't get is just because you're comfortable biking on that street, comes up a lot with Summit. There's lots of guys in like those bike jerseys.
Yeah, well,
think it's a
they're
terrible
not-
idea.
they-
Like 70-year-olds in bike jerseys, like, no, we don't need this.
Yeah, well, they're not commuters. They're people who want to go as fast as they can.
And they're not new bikers. Even if you're a commuter, like some people got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new bikers aren't comfortable in the street. We're podcasting. We're podcasting. This is a great way. Yeah, it's a great way to avoid conversations with people. Just have a camera. You don't have to turn it on. Just say, no, I'm podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea behind, putting earbuds in your ears when you're at the gym. Like you don't even have to listen to anything. I just don't want to talk to anyone else. What about you? What are you excited about in the upcoming? Are there any Wedge Live exposés in the future that you've been doing research on or anything like that?
No. I've been,
You just wait for the news to happen and report on it.
one of the things I do is I try to keep Wedge Live new and different because it's not lucrative, so it has to be like interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so getting better at the audio and visual part of doing something like this has been kind of fun
Okay.
and a lot of work.
Are you are you a Premiere Pro person or are you like a
Premiere Elements.
Oh, Premiere
I'm
Elements.
not doing the
You're not paying like
I'm doing
$20 a month or whatever.
The value version. I'm not paying
No.
the monthly subscription.
Oh,
no.
okay. And Lyndale was the first one, right? I think when OpenStreet started, I think it was maybe just Lyndale.
I don't know. I don't go back that long. Let's
Oh.
talk about history.
Okay. What historical? Are there any historical Wedge topics? I mean, the city is very different than. I guess if you've been here, 10 years?
10 years.
I think that's kind of just the time around the time when more people were able to live downtown. Around when you came in was when a lot of these new buildings came into around the Greenway as well.
Yeah. So the Wedge was a hotbed not just of development but of resentment. It's what shaped my sensibility.
Yeah, I mean,
of local politics.
you started going to a lot of these meetings when people were mad about new housing going up in areas that were previously, for the most part, things weren't really. I think it might have even been zoned industrial use or something. I can remember there being lumber yards, things like that. So, and it seems like in a desirable area, where housing is at a premium. That's where housing should go.
People have kind of gotten used to it by now, at least in the Wedge. I'm sure there are other neighborhoods where they might see more development where people will get mad when it happens. But overall, I think Minneapolis is used to the fact that new buildings will be built for people to live. We could talk about the 2040 plan.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I've been saying a lot, this lawsuit will cause a delay, but it's kind of irrelevant to the ultimate outcome. We've got St. Paul eliminating single-family zoning now, and when St. Paul comes to your idea, it's not edgy anymore. It's just normal. It's a thing that people do now.
well, yeah, when St. Paul does it, it's just business as normal. And when Minneapolis does it, there needs to be several articles.
Very loud. Very loud. There's the former mayor.
Oh yeah, former mayor alert.
All these better guests I could have had, Anton.
You want to hear a funny story about RT? I've got one.
Okay, let's
Which
hear it.
is, and I kind of feel bad about this now, in hindsight, but when Nice Ride first kind of came out, they were very open about the data they were publishing about where users were and what stations they were stopping at and things like that. But they also published things like birth dates and I forget if it was zip codes of users and things like that. You could eventually figure out
The early days of the internet when nobody knew that you could do anything with birthdays and
exactly. So I kind of wanted to make the point that hey, you could use this data to uniquely identify people, and I don't think you should be able to do that. So I came up with the most high-profile user of that service at the time was RT Ryback.
You identified him?
So yeah, I figured out like where he biked to and where he was like, what stations he would check bikes out from and where he would go and like what times and things like that.
So did Nice Ride hate you?
Well, so I eventually,
That's really embarrassing.
yeah, I mean a little. I think like I just think they didn't realize at the time. It was a more innocent time about data use.
Right.
And so, but after that, they took down the data and they stopped publishing, you know, users' birth dates, which, you know, and I think the city pages maybe wrote about it, then they stopped. So.
The rumor is you put him out of business.
Yeah, no, I think you're spreading that, and I don't appreciate it at all. So I don't really have anything else to add other than everyone should like and subscribe to this video for more great Anton and John content.
If you enjoy the ambiance of open streets in the background of a podcast, lots of loud music. This has been the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards.
I'm Anton.
Anton Schieffer. You can watch it at youtube.com/Wedge Live and help support Wedge Live and all that it does, meaning me, meaning me.
Yeah. Become a
Patreon.com/Wedge Live. These microphones weren't free. I had to buy these.
No.
This video camera costs money. I wouldn't have this video camera if not for this podcast. Do you think I have things I want to take video of in my life other than me talking with Anton for you?
No.
No. So patreon.com/Wedge Live. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.